Very good morning to Mr. Choi Shing Kwok, to Christian Eckler, to our distinguished speakers and roundtable panelists, to all your excellencies, and to the viewers who have joined us via Zoom this morning. Christian talked about not being able to see as many of you face to face. I sincerely hope and I share his sentiments that we hope to see everyone soon, at least next year, and for the 37th ASEAN Roundtable. But for today, I'm really happy and delighted to receive the invitation to deliver the keynote speech at the 36th ASEAN Roundtable. And this year's theme, as both speakers had mentioned earlier on, is Braving the Storms, ASEAN in Crisis Mode. Indeed, it has been a difficult time for all of us, with COVID-19 posing new and unforeseen challenges to countries all over the world. And our ASEAN region is no exception, as we grapple with not just the current public health crisis, but also with fundamental shifts in the international order and where we find our place in this international order. In the past few years, we've seen rapid shifts in the global geopolitical landscape. We've seen new partnerships formed, old alliances renewed, and increased concerns of greater polarization. And relations between the US and China have become tense, with reverberations across our region. And amidst this uncertainty, there's been an increased global focus on our Asia-Pacific region, including in ASEAN. Notwithstanding these tensions, in recent years, ASEAN's volume of trade flows with both the US and China have increased. And amidst the pandemic, China and the US were ASEAN's largest and second largest trading partners in 2020, with two-way merchandise trade growing by 1.8% and 4.6% respectively. And the US and China are also stepping up their engagements with the region, with both US and Chinese senior officials visiting ASEAN countries recently and seeking to strengthen cooperation in the economic, digital, public health, and other spheres. ASEAN has constructive and positive relationships with the US, China, and other partners. And we will always welcome engagement with all stakeholders and hope that our partners will continue to contribute constructively to the peace and stability of our region and complement the existing ASEAN-centric regional architecture. So as we continue to face an uncertain international geopolitical environment and a constantly evolving geopolitical landscape with the emergence of new arrangements, ASEAN's centrality and unity continues to be key to safeguard our autonomy and the ability to make decisions that is best in ASEAN's interest. So ASEAN member states must continue to work together to maintain this ASEAN centrality and unity in our region and preserve our autonomy to collaborate with our partners outside of ASEAN. So what has ASEAN's strategies been for the post-pandemic recovery? If we look at the dynamically changing geopolitical backdrop which I just painted, we all know that regional cooperation is critical to address one of ASEAN's most pressing concerns, which is the fallout from the pandemic. We know that the immediate public health impact of the disease and the economic implications continue to unfold and affect both our people and our economies. And ASEAN has done not too bad. We have banded together to promote recovery and emerge stronger from the pandemic. Last year, we launched the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework, which focuses our region's post-pandemic recovery efforts on 5 broad areas, and that's enhancing public health, human security, regional economic integration, inclusive digital transformation, and sustainability. Our partners, ASEAN's partners, have also expressed commitment to supporting its implementation and to bolster regional post-pandemic recovery. If I were to cite another example of our cooperation, at the height of last year, at the pandemic, ASEAN and our FTA partners signed RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. RCEP is the world's largest FTA, comprising 30% of global GDP and a third of the world population. Singapore and our RCEP partners are working towards the entry into force of RCEP by early 2022. When implemented, RCEP will strengthen ASEAN's economic ties with the broader region, and these efforts speak to the importance of working together for post-pandemic recovery through further integration and cooperation of our economies. But if we look at the long term, ASEAN is not just looking beyond or within this crisis mode. We have to look at long-term resilience. Beyond all of these short-term disruptions that we discussed earlier on, ASEAN is also seeking to harness the benefits from global megatrends. And if you allow me to, I will share 3 of them. And the first is on digitalization. Digitalization has increased exponentially during the pandemic. Just last year alone, there were 40 million new internet users last year, resulting in 70% of the region's population now being online. And the use of e-commerce has become a key channel for businesses to seek new growth opportunities and for consumers to better access digital services. And this industry is poised and set to grow further. By 2025, e-commerce in our region is expected to expand to US 172 billion from US 62 billion in 2020. And it will be important and key for ASEAN to leverage this momentum to promote an equitable and inclusive economic recovery. To that end, the ASEAN Economic Ministers recently adopted the Bandar Sri Begawan Roadmap on Digital Transformation, which highlights key needle-moving initiatives towards a single digital economy in ASEAN. And as part of this roadmap, ASEAN has agreed to start negotiations on an ASEAN Digital Economy Framework Agreement by 2025. This will promote the seamless and secure flow of goods, services, and data in our region. And this is underpinned by enabling rules, regulations, infrastructure, and talent. So the first megatrend is digitalization. The second megatrend that we are looking at, a global megatrend, is on supply chain shifts. Indeed, the pandemic has accelerated long-term shifts in supply chains, and businesses are increasingly pursuing resilience in supply chains on top of efficiency considerations. When I speak to businesses in the region, they shifted their paradigm. They were talking more about not about just-in-time delivery, but just-in-case delivery. So in a region closely connected by value chains, ASEAN must and will do well to strengthen our value proposition as a regional production and manufacturing hub. And we are enhancing efforts to promote trade facilitation within our region, including by addressing non-tariff measures and expanding the ASEAN Single Window through link-ups with our FTA partners. Third, ASEAN is embarking on the transition towards a green recovery. And the third point is effectively sustainability. In fact, we recently finalized a framework for circular economy for the ASEAN Economic Community, and this outlines our region's strategic commitment to sustainable development. What does this framework do? It will galvanize how we implement concrete initiatives towards sustainable and inclusive growth for our people, economies, and society. One such initiative is the ASEAN Catalytic Green Finance Facility, or ACGF. ACGF provides loans and technical assistance for green, bankable infrastructure projects in Southeast Asia. In fact, in March 2021, ACGF, with financing support from the ADB, or the Asian Development Bank, and the Green Climate Fund, launched the Green Recovery Program. And this Green Recovery Program will support over 20 green infrastructure projects worth more than US $4 billion across Southeast Asia. And it is expected to create 340,000 green jobs in key sectors such as sustainable transport, renewable energy, and low-carbon agriculture over a 30-year period. Now, these initiatives will help ASEAN emerge stronger and greener and entrench our position in the international economy in the 21st century. And we look forward to continuing to work with our ASEAN counterparts as well as our partners from around the world. Christian, you mentioned earlier on about the storms, and it's often said that smooth seas do not make good sailors. And I think the challenges over the past 18, 19, 20 months that COVID has wrought has obviously wrought a lot of havoc. It has wrought a tornado, as Christian, you mentioned, but I'm very confident that it has also built up our muscle as ASEAN individual states, ASEAN member states, to help us to navigate the current crisis, but also to plan ahead, as we have done, as I showed you that all of the different plans that we have, to navigate the long-term challenges and opportunities for the region.